Hopefully, it doesn't take the whole 40 hours to earn that armor.
Oh my gosh.
Well, we are up,
Premium,
gentlemen.
Ultra.
Hello.
Let's see how this do.
Let's see. First, let's
We are a little late due to technical difficulties on my side of things, but whatever.
Nope, I can't hear myself.
I already checked all this stuff. Desktop audio's coming through.
I hear D.
Speak again, Ken, because I just saw you spike it.
Oh, I think I heard, yeah. But maybe I'm quiet from you. There it is.
No.
I'm coming in now. Okay, no, we're good. I mean, when I
I'm
went
able to hear you.
I didn't hear that. Oh, it's cutting it out. Okay, that's why. It's Discord. You can't hear me doing that, can you?
No.
Okay, see, that's what I was missing.
Well,
What do you have on the bottom right of your Discord?
who are you talking about? Me?
It says looking for something to do, and it has
Oh.
like YouTube and Bobble.
It's just some
Boggle,
BS nonsense advertising for the stuff. I have Nitro, so it's sort of like, hey, you want to do stuff? Yeah! Like,
Yeah, those things are fun. Play poker with your friends over Discord.
yeah. Well, needless to say, okay. So,
Oh, God.
as a very quick aside, we had to record last week's session. I'm still trying to put it together after everything's been sort of exploding in my face. So, prequel to this will be uploaded on our YouTube channel this week if I can manage to pull it off. That's
or pull it out.
yeah, yes, pull it out. We'll be able to show you what actually happened, but as a synopsis of the events that occurred. I don't know. Do you guys want to just take it away and see what? Well, because I'm sure it was exciting for everybody. We had a lot of role play, really.
Danny found the room of requirement.
I mean, that is that's like a 5-word synopsis.
I mean, yeah.
That's it. That's all you need to know. Apparently, there's
for
like
me,
a secret portal or Neverland connected to the house.
yeah, that you just
So
like
we have that.
sussed out.
That I just like third
you open
eye,
it,
big
third
brained.
eye, yeah.
Yeah, he Google lensed it.
Yeah.
Hey Google. So the big thing though is, at least for me, is seeing if the stream starts to lag. That's the big one.
Well, right now we have not lost any frames whatsoever.
Monkey
Nice.
says that
Oh,
Ken
Monkey.
has the best beard.
Well, that's nice of you. I feel like I'm disheveled today. I had such a bad morning. I woke up in the morning and I had already scheduled this, but I still woke up early and had to take my cat to the vet. On the way to the vet, my tire pressure light, it's like low pressure. It's like fuck. And so so after I drop Rango off to get to the vet, and she's good, so no worries there.
And he-
Mountain Man can eat it. I mean, they can. Yeah. So after Rango dropped off, we were driving back home, and I was looking for a place to get air, right? Because I need to get my tire pressure up. And so I stop at the first gas station I find, and it's one of those coin-operated ones. And this is one of those ones where when you push it in, it's supposed to show you your air pressure, and then you squeeze the thing, and it pushes air, and then you pull it out so you can see the air pressure, right? This one was broken. Like, I put it in and nothing happened, and then when I squeeze it, it shot out completely.
That's what she
hiding
said.
your weak chin. Good God.
That was good. I like that. So I had to find another place, and that time when I squeezed it, it shot out properly.
You're talking about the tire pressure gauge. That's what it's called.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I think I
Well.
described it well enough.
Yes, a lot of
I
in and
knew what
out
you were
and
talking
no
about.
pop and all that. Yeah. I mean, is that a boom mic or a That
Micro
hobo beard is low tier. Oh, he's hitting you where it hurts, man.
Oh.
Just wait until you guys play Darktide next, and then
Dude, it takes a lot to fucking manage this shit. Do you see what's not on my chest right now? Like, it's not snowing down here. There's nothing.
I love that you guys are getting one guy by Monkey. You're like, you motherfucker, you're gonna hear about beards and how good they are.
It takes some fucking skill. I was actually telling somebody else, it's like, I didn't know you could get dandruff with like a beard. It's like, well, it's hair on your face that has the same
Dandruff
exact.
is just dead skin cells, so it's an accumulation.
Right. So normally, it's like with this kind of beard too, it'd be so much worse because if I went like that, you'd be able to fucking tell that something was shooting off like this over here. Like, if you know, dude's taking care of it whenever he can just do this shit and it doesn't have anything. He's wearing a black shirt. I'm wearing blue and gray.
What's annoying is that I'm noticing because of work and stress that I'm getting gray hairs here and here. I got the salt and pepper.
Scott is me now.
Anyway,
goatees and Van Dykes. All right. Anyway, so
we learned about. I think the biggest thing from last week is we learned about Mr. Glass.
Yes.
That was I think the big revelation. So as a recap of the recap, we found out that someone has been pulling the strings of our lives a little bit, and Silva was kind of orchestrated to get us all connected, and so we're trying to figure out who this mystery man is. And so Malcolm found out about from I think it was Lance that Mr. Glass was kind of the precipitator of all of this. And then when we started looking into Mr. Glass, I think it was Danny and Hugh. Actually, it was just Danny. You started looking it up, right?
Yeah.
We found like he's been around for ages, and we found a good look at him. And I have a picture in my notes of the one that D dubbed as the most accurate representation.
The one.
Yeah.
Is that the anime one?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, you found a lot of references. Apparently, he's been around for hundreds of years. He's kind of like a freelancer. He shows up all the time when you look, but he also always looks really out of place. That's always kind of the big thing. He's a top hat wearing, like I consider like a guy from the 20s, like a good old boy with a 7-7 monocle. He has got.
It looks like he's about 100 years out of date. Is what it looks like. But he's also, he's thin and appears to be in the right place at the right time all the time, which is weird.
He didn't get his clothes out of a vending machine like the rest of us.
Less spectacular.
So Estelle knows who Mr. Glass is. That was another thing.
Yes.
Let's see.
And she had like, oh, Mr. Glass. A little bit.
Oh yeah, that's right. She had
Not
a little crush on him.
Yeah.
Yeah, Estelle was somebody that was like sort of one of his biggest fans since he was sort of a urban legend, similar to like Mothman, Slenderman, or any of these other kinds of weird cryptid type. He just kind of pops up out of nowhere and strange things happen. So he had a legendary reputation, especially considering the fact nobody could get a hold of him to talk to him.
But we're thinking he basically like incepted Lance to go look for an item.
Is Amish shopkeeper? I win. I just fucking win. You want to know why? Because y'all know you love my butter.
What?
I got him to
You
crack.
churned by butter? You churned by butter?
Yes. But
Okay. So then, after all of that, Danny wakes up in the I think the morning early and goes on a vision quest. You did.
Yeah.
Basically, you just rolled your way into this Neverland because you just kept crit after crit, and so something spectacular had to happen.
well, it was going to be kind of a tough sell overall. But I mean, you guys managed to pull it off. Nope. There we go.
That's how I heard Monkey saying it.
Yeah, pretty much. So.
Yeah. Oh, and when I went into the cool room, my dad tried to follow or whatever, and he did not go into the cool room. And then he saw me like pop out of the air.
Right.
So, and I remember distinctly that I locked it after I got out. I locked it back up. Because apparently the 3 options were open, close, and lock.
Well, the other part too is the way that the way that he tried to come in. So according to his perspective, when the door was open, it just opened up into the hallway, and then you were inside of the Neverland. And when he went through, it's almost like he just his silhouette vanished against this field of energy. It's like blue outline, and he just goes like he just disappears, but you can still hear him like he was down the hall. And it was one of those things where it's like you couldn't tell where he was versus where you were. It was just a weird confluence of strange energy there. Estelle also managed to remark on the fact that this is something like this part of the house, because she's had it for a while, and this was something that was apparently a part of the home that she was aware of and hadn't thought about until you suddenly kind of like just walked your way in there, casual like. I mean, but that Google Lens, dude, something else.
Yeah, it works.
Yeah, that's kind of what happens whenever I keep rolling really low odd numbers every single time you guys go anywhere that has anything of note. I'm like, sure, this is going to be what's there.
And Danny's other item that he has is the pendant that translates. So it's, you know, he's all about that extra knowledge and language.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, I'm gonna start into the Yosemite Sam's them's fighting words kind of thing here in a minute. Well, okay. So you found your way through, and once you did, you pushed yourself back out into the normal world and then closed and locked it again. And your father was like, "Where were you exactly?" And then, of course, Estelle was like, "Oh my God, you found this. Like, how is it you keep running into these things?" Is basically what she's just kind of like trying to figure out in her own mind. And we kind of just left it there because Tiberius was going to go back to making breakfast because it was the morning following up. Well, more like the afternoon. Everybody was just kind of waking up late because it was up until 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning when you guys finally shut down. Except for the resident vampire in the room. Everybody else was tired as hell. So, but yeah, I mean, most of the shutters are closed, most of the curtains are closed up, so, Malcolm will be able to maneuver and work his way around that kind of thing with no trouble. And, well, everybody's kind of coming downstairs and getting themselves collected, hearing about what new discoveries in the home that apparently Estelle wasn't sure was even real until now. So, Hugh, you're going to be down there. Malcolm, you'll have heard things. Yeah. So,
books,
take it from there.
Like a library sort of thing, full of books. But I don't want to sit and read all those books.
Well, let me stop you right here. So what you're saying is you walk through another random portal.
You made me.
I know how to do that.
You just
I learned it from watching you.
And what have we told you? Don't do what Hugh does.
Well, okay, so in my defense, I felt
Always a good start.
something kind of, happening. And so I followed my instinct and I looked and there was like a shape like in the air, but not
and
a
then you
shape.
said in your mind that it was a good idea. I'm gonna stick my finger in it.
If you don't want me to pull the string, then don't leave a string dangling there.
Of course,
Dino,
Barnaby's
exactly
just
what
in the
I'm thinking of.
background
Heaven
shaking his
forbid.
head.
Heaven
But I was
forbid
just
you
looking.
ever asked for an adult help, saying, "Oh, it's a mysterious glowing portal.
No,
I've had problems with these before."
It's in the house. It's probably fine. And so anyway, it just leads to like a secret library, apparently.
Allegedly.
But there's
Let's
no video, no audio, nothing popped up in my smart brace, so it's just books. So like books.
Let's see it. I want to see it.
I don't know if you can, because Dad couldn't go through. I don't know if you have to
Well,
like
Barnaby's just sort of like,
Or
maybe
hold
you
his
just
hand.
have to like wiggle the door a little more or something.
it's not it's what? No. It has 3 buttons. Open, close, locked. I hit the open. And it opened.
Right. He's like,
Well, let's
you're
go take it out. I have my monocle.
yeah. Let's go do that. Let's go use Hugh's monocle and see what this looks like. Hmm?
My true state monocle.
Okay, so it's right through here. So I'm just gonna lead him,
You go through the
back
kitchen.
down the hallway.
Where there's like another room that opens up to, like I said, the bay window in that smaller area, and then to your right, there's this
Yeah.
hallway that leads to another part of the house. When you get to
Yeah,
that door,
okay,
it's closed
right
because you
here.
closed it up, right?
You can see it's like there but not there, right?
Pop your
I'm
monocle
gonna-
there, Hugh.
This is resonance. This is what
Should I roll something to see what my L5
Brenner
sees?
told me
No,
to
but
look
I
for
mean,
resonance.
you actually find a very faint signature that pops up in the monocle, so. But it's
I see it.
disguised, so you have to unlock it.
I have to unlock it?
No, Danny has to unlock it. He's the one who can see it in fully.
Yeah, so then I just like
You follow the same sequence as before. You actually don't
Do
even have
it.
to roll.
and then and and it looks like a salty butthole, apparently. Oh.
You know
With
what I
the visualizer
imagine?
kind
It's
of,
like a
you
The
know, look at the
visualizer doesn't
visualizer.
help.
There we go. That's for you.
You know how when you're making a cocktail, the with the sugar rim, like
Yeah.
that's what I imagine monkeys seeing, except it's a chocolate milk.
There you go.
So that's a job he did with that rim.
Yeah, indeed. So anyway,
Can we unlock
Yeah.
the door now?
we get this open, and then you can see, and then there's like the 3 things.
Right.
So how does the
You
lens
basically
of-
just twist.
translation
Because, like I said,
work?
you actually got to see that whole thing. You kind of remember it just from having done it once. But you intersected. Remember from many games back, whenever Sebastian was like rotating all those discs on the
Yes.
door. This is very much a similar design to that. So you just
Okay.
rotate things together to create a specific. It's almost not even. It's not just image of what the runes themselves comprise. It is the specific runes that make the certain points. So it is a vastly complex 3-dimensional lock. So you're just going like you just kind of turn things around until it creates this final rune as an image on top, and then it just uses the specific runes to create those fine points, like a constellation of stars. When you twist it, the lock, close, open, all become readily available, and the monocle picks them up clear as day now.
Nice. I'll remark on that.
Yes, there's an obfuscation that stands in the way of it. The lock hides it from any kind of prying eyes, except for in very specific circumstances, like when you're dealing with Danny.
Yeah. So anyway, you just unlock it. So the lens that I have though, is that something that only I can use, or can I like hold it up so others can see through it and see?
Anybody who peers through
open-
the other end, it's like an artifact. So you hold it up, you can
Okay.
see what's going on, and all of them can look through it and see the open-close lock.
Yeah. So see, then we just hit here to open, and then It opens.
So everybody, just make a will essence check that isn't Danny. Just make a will essence check straight. Because what you're trying to do is beat. You're trying to beat the illusion of the doorway. See, what's funny is that your sense of what is down that hallway when he opens it is what dictates what shows up. And if you firmly believe that it's just the hallway, that is all you'll see.
What's the target?
That's always 8 unless I specify otherwise.
Okay. Yeah, so 3 degrees of success.
But yeah, notice that the chat is stopped showing up on the stream. Like it's still good. Like as far as like our, like it's not lagging at all. But the chat stopped showing up.
It's because Monkey got too explicit.
I guess. So.
The stream is rated E for explicit, not E for everyone.
I mean, it's explicit is for everyone, right?
Well, let's just test this out here real quick.
Let's
Yep,
see. My
it's broke.
will is. My will is.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
not
there's his
showing up for me
majesty.
either. We'll add that to
There's
the
a
extremely
stream
long
element.
list of weird shit that seems to be
It
happening
was there
right
a
now.
minute ago. Maybe.
Yeah,
just
it was
reload
showing
stream
up earlier. Oh,
I
well.
mean, random stuff was just uninstalling stuff from my computer prior to us starting, so I have...
You have a virus?
No, I don't have a virus. I have an active antivirus and anti-spyware running all the time, so...
Oh, okay.
Tickle
well,
your
I don't know,
nickels.
my
Did
will-
that show up? No, that did not show up.
All right, chat. So Ken can't see it. Hugh believe. You know what? That kind of works because of your gullibility.
Mhm.
I
That
I
you like
what I see.
believe the illusion more.
Yeah, that's fair.
Do, 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 do.
Gullibility? Yeah, that's a word. Okay. It just took me a
Gullibility, yeah.
second.
You are
I
correct.
want to hear that word in the Scottish accent.
Gullibility.
Burglar
Burglar
alarm.
alarm.
What?
Purple burglar alarm.
Yeah.
Was that a reference?
Apparently, Scottish people have difficulty saying purple burglar alarm.
It's because they talk in the back of their throat. That's some pretty harsh shit.
And burglar becomes burglar.
So it's like,
purple
pop, pop, burglar alarm. Like, they have to come back from the back of the throat all the whole way.
Oh my gosh, I'm moderately attractive according to Monkey. I'll take it.
Yeah, there it goes.
There we go.
Because he didn't
And then
name
what
me and
the-
called me Amish, I know exactly how attractive I am.
2 hobos.
You hope wasn't a moderately attractive man. Sounds like a late '90s sitcom.
Have
You're not
have You
wrong.
guys seen the video of the guy of the I think it was Brooklyn guy trying to say iron earned and Aaron earned?
Oh, that's
Or
the Baltimore accent.
Baltimore, yeah.
Yeah, Aaron earned and Iron earned.
Iron earned.
I love it. All right, so I opened the door, and Malcolm can see, and Hugh is still held by the illusion.
I'm looking at it through the monocle and I was like,
Oh. Hold
We
on.
keep getting these very.
Oh my god, yeah, you
rectal-oriented,
tripped out. Okay, and I gotta find out what's going on with Barnaby here real
visualizers.
quick.
Well, now it's like bloody.
Barnaby definitely sees it.
You know, it's nice to be in my 40s and to look like you 20 years ago.
Tiberius misses it somehow. And Estelle definitely sees it. Woof. God, she sees it. Jesus.
She sees everything.
Dude, she got like 6 successes.
God
Well, that makes sense. Her third, fourth, and fifth eye are open.
So,
So you
she...
said Tiberius and Hugh are the only ones who didn't pass that.
That
Correct.
tracks.
When we pass through, however, roll it again, because it's going
Do
to
we have to
challenge
like
that
hold
belief.
hands to make us go through?
No, because once they actually see it through there, the image of the doorway. Try to imagine like your point of focus going through the lens, right? It goes through the lens that you can perceive all these things, and then your focus will just naturally widen when you're like, wow, is that really there? When you look up, it just happens to be there after the fact when it wasn't before. And it's a very seamless kind of transition. And so all of us go walking in, including Estelle, those of us who've been able to actually break through this particular, like blockage or illusion. And Tiberius and Hugh are left behind, but you watch all of them just kind of vanish, because when they hit the perimeter of the door, they pass through it with just this kind of like envelopment of light and then just kind of vanish. So we get one more shot at being able to see what's going on. Go ahead and roll it again, Hugh.
Oh, I thought you were talking to them when you said roll again.
No, because Malcolm and the rest of them have already seen it. Only you and Tiberius remain. Only if they ask to, Monkey. Only if they ask.
Well, technically he could, not ask, but Okay, so let's see. Roll 4d10
Sent his key,
E10
yes.
F1 target 8. Oh wow, okay. Upon seeing that, I was like, okay, I see it now.
Right.
You just
Actually,
had to,
weirdly enough. Yeah.
know where to look.
And you kind of like watch this sort of materialization, almost like from out of this distancing effect that it kind of comes in and just sort of like becomes the inside of this library, and you can now pass through, having broken the barrier of the illusion in your mind. So we're all on the inside now, and interestingly, this is one of those rare moments where Malcolm himself will actually find himself a bit intrigued, because there is a fair amount of sunlight coming through at a different time of day than where you're at right now. Like it'd be later in the afternoon, but the sunlight coming through presents you no sense of danger whatsoever. You don't feel the kind of intrepid problem of being in the light. Like even with your... Go ahead.
Like with the, because he still didn't get that armor repaired, so he's got like a bare arm. He just brings a bare arm and says, yeah, that's something.
Yeah, I
Just
mean,
like-
you go
like-
into that illumination and it does not have any effect on you whatsoever.
It's because you're under my protection. That you are.
Oh, I'm
Able.
only God's protection, boy.
That's
You're
what I
more-
said.
You're more the devil.
Yeah,
So-
Barnaby's in the background. It's like, Danny, one of these days you're going to say shit like that and it's just going to go completely wrong.
I mean,
Emo.
yeah.
It's like, just like Dots. It's like, that's a good boy. Wow, this place is incredible, though. Like, he's just looking around. It's like, it feels like we're stuck in some kind of enormous church from out of, like, the 1400s. I mean, who built this?
Does it
And-
look the same as it did when I went in there before? It
Yeah.
hasn't changed.
No, it has not
Yeah, but
changed.
look at all these books everywhere. Like, whose books are these?
It's like, these were probably handwritten. And he, like, goes up to one of the shelves and just kind of takes a look at one of them. And he's like, yeah, definitely handwritten. I mean, these are, like, leather bound and everything. He, like, slides one out, takes a look inside of it, and he's like, that's
The
got to
smell
be
of the
real.
dust mites.
He's just like, I can't even believe that this is, like, I know we've been through a lot, but this happens to be the strangest thing that we've kind of, like, come on to that. I mean, look at the size. It was like he's looking out the door into the regular house, closes the book, and slides it back to where it was. He's like, I mean, is this all just like an illusion like everything else in here?
Oh, can we take it out of the room?
That's what I was just thinking. He's like, he goes
Yeah,
up to
we can
one of
grab
the
a
other
book
ones and
run
he
to the
like,
door.
yeah. When you leave the perimeter, the book remains.
It just falls to the floor.
No, I mean, you just, like, if you pass through it, you have it in your hand, unless you toss it through.
Oh, the book stays with me into the rest of
Yeah.
the world?
Yeah, you go walking
Oh,
out, the
it
book is
remains
in your
up, like,
hand.
it remained in there. Okay.
It is a
I
physically
misunderstood.
real object. It does not appear to be part of any illusory, like dimension like this Neverland is. Sticky pages.
It's the Jewish Japanese sex and cookbook and how to raise wolves? What is this?
Barnaby just, he starts thumbing through. It's like, most of these are in a language I don't know. And Estelle is wandering around in utter awe. Tiberius is talking to her quietly, and she's just kind of looking around at all the different shelves and just kind of, touching the wood and dragging her fingers across the spines of the books at, like, shoulder level and just looking at everything. And then she goes up to the windows, which, by the way, there are doors that lead out into what look to be a courtyard to the outside. And she's just kind of staring around. She's like, I always thought I understood what it might have looked like, but I didn't realize it was like this.
You were wrong.
Leonidas, you are wrong.
So how many books, just ballpark, do we think are in here? Like 10,000?
It's probably close to that ballpark, just because of the number of shelves, most of them lining the walls.
Okay, is there...
a means of indexing everything?
Well, no, is there, a librarian here? Nobody stopped me from grabbing the book and making a run for it. Not even
Correct.
anything magical kept the book behind. There's not some ghost that's gonna pop up and be like, how dare you,
Well, you haven't found anything yet. Whether or not there
Okay.
is a librarian, you have not... At the moment, there does not appear to be one, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything.
Do we see the bounds of it, or does it, extend beyond where we can see?
Well, you have the courtyard, which it goes, you can see the building as it stretches beyond, kind of surrounding things. And again, it takes on that sort of very old-fashioned, as far as Danny's concerned, it's got that look to it that's just like, yeah, man, this has got to be thousands of years old, when it's really just a few hundred. But the architecture is sort of, it's Gothic in its appearance. It has that cathedral-like look to it. You don't see any flying buttresses on the inside of the courtyard, but there's stone benches. There's a little water brook that's out there. You go looking around. This place is like a house almost. You could almost live here. You know that there are doorways that lead to other areas of the building. So the exact size of this Neverland is not really well understood.
Okay. So, Mom, you knew about this place but couldn't get to it? What is it supposed to be? Is this my
Sanctuary?
inheritance or something?
No, it was supposed to be a sanctuary. One for us. She just kind of looks to you. This house was here for quite some time, long before the whole robotic revolution in the early 21st century and so on. Even the late 20th century, this home has been here for some time. I never really thought that I was going to have to explain that, given the circumstances, and his memory was gone, and he was completely fine with the way that he was. So, the reason never really came to be, and I thought it was going to be sort of a lost premise. I was going to leave you the house in a will, of course, but finding it was not what I expected.
All right, so I know a little bit about Neverlands and stuff. I have the planar intuition milestone, which gives me a bonus to help navigate and naturally sense doorways leading in and out and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Does that translate to any knowledge about how Neverlands are made or anchored to places or anything like that?
If you were to make one, so it's kind of a yes and no on that. So what happens is that the more exposure to Neverlands you have, gives you more data on how they fit together, because your experience starts to accumulate. So building a Neverland of your own is much more precise as a result of being exposed to more of them, or even the same one over and over and over again, because the structure will be fundamentally the same. It's, size, degree. That's about the only thing you have to be concerned with.
I guess my question, Mom, is, did this place exist before the house? Was the house built around it, or was the house built and then this was anchored to it?
holds her hands up. She's like, okay, just start with one question and we can get from there. She's like, this was definitely here as part of the house after it was built. We didn't. She just kind of like smiles. She's like, something like this has to be anchored to something. It can't just
Who anchored it?
float around. I don't really know. It was probably your ancestors, at least maybe 2, maybe 3 generations back.
Huh.
I only heard about it from my grandmother, and she wasn't able to find it either. Apparently, it was something
Okay.
important, and I can see why. She's just kind of looking around. It's like, and things are inherently going in a different direction for us and everyone else. I suspect that it must have been time to know about it. Or, she just goes like, in a less sort of, I guess, convenient way, you're just very apt at being able to see these things, and I am not as apt as you are. It's the only thing I can
sounds
understand.
Very accurate.
She's like, don't let it go to your head.
Too late. Okay. We should try and figure out what these books are, though.
Well, that's
I'm already
kind of a
good.
different problem altogether. I mean, the library here, we have to find out how it's all organized, or we're just going to be running around pulling books out. More than that?
He's already been doing that, by the way.
Yeah.
Running around like.
Like, what is the Dewey Decimal? Is that in this place?
I don't know. There's probably going to be some kind of organizational text somewhere in here. I'm not sure that
Is
they're
it,
going to be...
Meta question. Is it written in language that we can understand? Or do we
She's
need
like-
the lens?
She leans over to she's like, you're going to have to find it to answer that question because I don't know. I'm learning
Well,
about
like the
this just
book
as
that I
much same
grabbed.
as you.
Like the one that I grabbed. Is the cover in English or...
No, like
You know,
there's a lot of
or
books in
for
here that
language.
are very much not. A lot of them are in
Okay.
French and older dialects. Old English is common. There are a number
Okay.
of them that are in Sanskrit that you come across.
But not the arcane runes that were outside that
Mm-mm.
said like open, close, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So like they're in an earthly language.
Yes, these texts in particular seem to be of critical note, but are not designed as a strictly arcane linguistic conundrum. No.
Cool.
There we go.
Okay. There's a lot.
Yes, but
So
again,
besides
that's not
the-
necessarily our primary issue. We still need to worry about Mr. Glass. This might be coming in handy sometime later, but I mean, trying to analyze and understand all of these all at once right now, it seems a bit of like a distraction.
Oh, guys.
Or
Told
if
you
you're
here's the
looking-
library.
If we're looking for information, hell, I mean, why can't we find out about Mr. Glass in here?
She's like,
I mean, maybe.
I mean, I suppose if he's been alive long enough, some of these look to be hundreds of years old.
We said he's. Well, he dresses like he's a few hundred years old.
We're gonna have to find the index somewhere.
He's like a LARP or something.
Let's
I
do some
don't think that's how
investigation.
that works. And she's like, yes, do some investigating, absolutely. Let's start rolling them fragging polyhedrals.
Brazen. Okay. Let's see. My investigation is.
My investigation is still selected from last week.
Mhm.
I mean,
Like I must have clicked on it on that cell.
I
funny.
only have. Oh, I do have investigation. Yeah. It's like I only have tracking. Like, nope.
Oh my god, the dude in the sombrero. Bill, why?
You're welcome.
Not bad.
11.
11.
Oh damn! I got a crit.
Go, Ken, go. Hugh doing his investigation bullshit. Well done.
Oh damn. Okay. So
Nice.
30 on the 30.
Yeah, I have a 14, so.
Well,
Hugh
Hugh is
does his
definitely at home
investigation.
here. He seems to be very much, capable of understanding a lot of this in the old-fashioned way that it's designed. You come to a podium that is down the length of the library adjacent from the doorway you came in, and then it's on the right-hand wall. When you come up to that, there isn't anything that's on the podium, but when you put your hand on it, there's a very clear, distinct, kind of like arcane calligraphy that's all over it. Using your monocle, you can tell that there are certain, initiatory sequences involved, which is where you kind of go like, ah. And then if you want to roll your occult there, Hugh, since you've got a lock on it so well.
Mm-hmm. I'm just typing in some notes. All right, let's do some rolling.
Roll that beautiful bean footage.
Just love the cat
What's that
too.
from?
A commercial.
It's from a Bush's Baked Beans.
Yeah.
Oh, is it?
Yep.
1d10. You said occult.
Yes, occult.
All right, that is 11.
We gotta update our sheets.
We do.
Yeah, I need to compose a new one. Get rid of the stuff we're not using.
Not as bad. Not as good. I mean,
In your
that's,
spare
that's
time,
a
you know.
13.
Well, you kind of have it together to some degree. You're kind of like going around and kind of making certain changes to it, like you're trying to see if it reacts to contact or touch. Then you try something vocally. So,
I love it.
So, Danny, you come up to where he's standing next to this podium that's sort of out of the way, and you finally notice it. He's trying to do something with it. You can roll an occult as well.
What are you doing?
This looks promising. Do you see these inscriptions here? This seems like there's a starting sequence. I don't really fully understand this. I just recognize what I'm.
Jesus Christ.
Like, oh, I get it.
Yeah, it's upside down.
Well, I mean, you just kind of like look at the top of this podium here, and you kind of activate and talk. You speak at the same time, kind of going in sequence, and then it illuminates. There is a smaller figure that emerges on that podium, and they look to be probably in their mid-30s, somewhere in there. Well-kept hair. Designed in a fashion that seems to be, probably closer to like the 1950s, 1940s, something like that. And
Ancient times.
well, to Danny's perspective, yes. But he's just sort of like, "Greetings." He just kind of looks around to everyone. It's like, "Oh my, how long has it been?"
How big is he?
Is he like
What?
6 inches tall?
No,
Yeah, how
he's
big is
probably about 1.5 feet, like projected
about
off the
that.
top of the podium.
All right.
Is-
Well, I mean, first thing is, hey, Hugh Man here.
You hold it out. He's like,
He's like,
"I don't have the ability to make any kind of physical contact. If that's what you're trying to do."
that's what I was trying to do. Okay.
Is he like a 1.5 feet tall person, or like a 6 foot tall person represented as a 1.5 feet tall person?
As far as you can tell, it's just a holographic image. It looks no different to you now than it would if it was projected off of your smart brace, but at 18
Okay.
inches in height. And
Okay.
it's one of the things. But he's standing there. The only real differences besides that is the fact that he seems to be a luminescent, translucent being of a sort, with no visible projection except for the podium being right underneath him.
I'm gonna.
Yeah, you
This
just
is
shake
pretty
it through.
cool.
He's just sort of like, "Anyone care to tell me what year it is, by chance?"
Oh,
Uh,
2029.
2090?
Is it 90 now? Oh, whoops.
Yeah, it's 2094, if I'm not mistaken.
2094?
And he's like, "Oh, good gracious." And he's just looking down. It's like,
Really?
that would explain the strange clothing.
What?
You'll have to understand, I think the last time that I was even spoken to was around 1976, perhaps?
So that could have been the Jewish-Japanese cookbook of sex and raising wolves, so that came out in 1974. Okay, why are you in my house?
He's like, "I'm not in your house. You're in my house."
Okay. show me around your house then, because it looks like it's just a big library, but there's not an index or anything.
No,
and we
I'm
don't know
the
where anything
index.
is. Oh, that's not efficient.
He just shakes his head. He's like, it depends on how you use or employ the tools. It has nothing to do with my
What
efficiency.
Is your name Index, or do you have a different
Index
name
is
you'd
good
like
enough.
us to call you? Index, play Despacito.
I was like, I don't quite work like that, and who is it he's making demands to? You know, you feel your mother's hand on your shoulder. She's like, would you stop antagonizing him?
Okay, I think we found an index, Malcolm. I mean,
Alright.
McDonald's. We found an index.
Oh, I mean.
Oh, you corrected yourself.
Yeah,
So,
he was feeling a little too mature.
maybe you ask him a question about Mr. Glass.
And it's just like, are we talking about a pane of glass or an actual person's name?
Oh, an actual person. And he just basically shows the hollow projection that Lance gave him.
He just
Projecting
kind of looks
at
like
each other.
it's one of those things where he's like kind of taken aback a little piece of like
He's kind of a pain.
he just leans to the side. It's like, well, that's rather remarkable. I don't have any record of anyone by the name of Mr. Glass. It's probably going to be a specific Johnny Hancock of a name. Mr. Glass sounds almost like an alias.
Wouldn't know.
He's like, based on that description, however, he just kind of takes a look up and down. I can see if there's anything within record that would make sense. I'm going to presume that it's going to be within the last century, correct?
Maybe more. It seems to be a figure that shows up either in cataclysmic events or what could have been a cataclysmic event.
Well, I have a certain number of texts and references to various kinds of calamities, especially ones that were predicted. I wonder how many of them are actually true by now.
In the Appalachian area of the United States?
And he's just sort of like, are you referring to predictions of calamities or ones that have already happened?
Mostly towards this individual who does not seem to be aging at all, moves and is always appearing at these, I guess you could call them junctures.
Well, there are a
Perhaps
number of
the silver
supernatural beings that can fit the description. If I'm not mistaken, he kind of like gives you a look up and down. It's like, you are a vampire, am I right?
Yeah.
He just nods his head. So it is clear to me that the exposure to the supernatural and that of the arcane is not anything unusual to this group whatsoever. Come to think of it, it's like, which of you is actually beholden to the house? The family line?
This guy.
Well, so at this point, it's Estelle and Danny that raise their hand. He's like, well, that would explain the reason exactly why it was you were able to get in. But, needless to say, as I was trying to point out, certain supernatural beings carry the ability to live a very long time. He does not appear to be of elven nature. He just kind of like holds he's like tapping himself. Now, he's clean shaven, right? And he's got like the side part, the whole nine. And he's just kind of like things like, I suspect. Well, he can't necessarily be an unusual in that sense. I don't exactly. So you are certain that he is associated with specific calamities, predicted or otherwise occurred, yes?
Aye.
Well, then we must investigate on those parameters in particular. One moment. He just kind of like stands for a minute thinking. There's kind of a variable fluctuation. He's like, can you give me some specifics on calamities that might have been a part of his history up until now?
Oh, I don't know. Let's say you, my lady. He just kind of gives her a smirk.
What a sell.
Yeah, because he's the fangirl.
Right. Well, she starts listing off certain things that have happened, including the industrialization of, Night City and certain combat events. There were also like events in history where she goes into detail. One being the geomantic action that took down the Twin Towers. That was reportedly a form of botanical experiment. where they were trying to create a vast and massive, excuse me, like outburst of forestation that normally couldn't have happened in any other way. Happened only once and was never able to be recreated, so considered a fluke. And the reports of said experiment have never been found, since the corporations keep pretty tight-lipped on that. But she's aware of the fact that it was not a corporate or technological phenomenon whatsoever. It created Central Park in its fullest. So she goes through all these details, and then he kind of comes around and is like, what was that last one about the strange sort of fluctuation? You said we were in 2094. Well, actually, now that I think about it, he actually does another sequence. Approximately 20 years ago, there was a large and sort of catastrophic event that would have been recorded, but forgotten. I always found that reference to be odd. He looks to everyone. He's like, do any of you recall anything happening 20 years prior?
I forgot.
No.
Hilarious! Well, yeah, he's just like, clearly you're too young, I understand. And then everyone else is like, they just kind of shake their heads. It's like, what sort of calamity? Nothing super severe. It seems that it would have occurred at the same timeline that was discussed from the combat zone encounter that she was describing, where some rather poignant conflict took place, and yet there didn't seem to be any finite resolution. And then there was a sense of things changing. He looks over to you. It's like, you must have been alive during those times. Do you not remember it yourself, Malcolm?
I mean, does he recall anything?
You can roll an intelligence essence check and see if there's anything that comes to mind.
Stuff that,
and by the way, he's going to be knowing your name because you guys will have been talking. But anyway. Go ahead. You were saying?
Oh my god, what was Drew's character's name? I can't remember. Maxwell Smart.
Max Smart.
Isn't that the stuff that Max was always talking about?
Shop Smart.
Like,
Shop S-Smart.
Used to be good in the good old days 20 years ago.
Yeah, Barnaby's like, yeah, he was constantly talking about that all the time.
I figured he was meaning before I was around, but maybe he was referring to this.
He was crazier than a bunch of cats on coke in a paper bag.
2 degrees of success.
Okay.
But crazy
there is
can
something
also be right.
And he's like, well, yeah. I mean, if you're gonna go crazy, you might as well have a legitimate reason, I suppose. But yeah, so 2 successes. What that basically tells you is like, you go back and thinking about it. This is similar to the encounter in terms of memory that you had when it came to Lance, with him not being able to remember certain specific details. You remember there being a very specific feeling some 20 years before, where, well, and even before that, there was this kind of collective understanding that a larger shadow force of some kind, maybe a shadow authority is a better way of putting it, would have been in charge at a time when they had a peak in power. Some 20 years ago, there was a dramatic shift, some kind of change, and you hadn't really thought about it up till now. It's not like you sat there and went, well, you know, I'm going to remember this forever. It was more of a, at the time, for a year after that, whatever it was, everything felt very odd. Like you stepped through a doorway and things looked the same, but they weren't the same. And then it just ebbed away. And you got used to what it was. Now it's 20-something years later, and you're like, yeah, no, something really did happen 20 years ago. And that gives you an interesting timeline to work with that nobody thought to ask about. And that might be something prudent to look into as far as Mr. Glass and any connection to it.
Mom, when did you wipe Dad's memory?
She's like, well, it was not 20 years ago. We're not that old. And she kind of like punches your arm like playfully. And she's like, it was only a few years back. Just enough to get us going because we had to make certain that you were safe, and he had very specific instructions as to why. Shortly after you were born, basically.
Well, for me, it's like trying to dig up a shiny coin from a bog.
Barnaby's like,
Just
I can usually follow your references, but you're gonna have to explain that one.
well,
Hmm.
essentially,
Give me cool.
I can remember this great, powerful entity controlling things, and then all of a sudden, it wasn't anymore.
Ivar.
And it's like all my memories around that are cloudy.
Dementia.
That's so
Barnaby
mean.
is thinking to himself, he's like, well, I mean, when I was a kid, I really didn't get into it, but there was a weird time, wasn't there? Because he starts thinking
Right.
about it. He's like, I'm in my 30s. I would have been like close to 10. Something did happen back then. What was it? He like turns back to the index. And he's like, he just holds his hands out in this sort of like surrender. He's like, I actually don't exactly know. The correlations themselves are usually in the disparate writings of the various authors, like Nostradamus and things like, and people like them, who kind of saw some of this coming along. But the problem with predictions in any and all forms is that they are subject to change rather rapidly, especially whenever there's any kind of knowledge about them. That's the reason why prophecies are really not all that fantastical, especially in fiction, because most of us understand that if we were to gain knowledge of the future in any capacity, we would end up changing it almost immediately. Somehow or
Okay,
another,
so something happened 20 years ago. Maybe Mr.
Well,
Glass is related
it's
to
like the relevant prediction that we are discussing at present happened in, and he just kind of looks back, 2024, I'm sorry, 2074. He was like thinking about that. 2074 in the month of March.
What was that?
That was my watch.
Yeah, so he's
Like,
like,
it was still on underwater mode.
right, so it's like, if it is in that time frame, you might be able to find more references to him depending on your means. He just kind of like looks around at the people and technology that they have and the smart braces and so on. He's like, I don't really know what any of those things really do, but I suspect that if they can create all kinds of, well, imagery like we saw just a moment ago, I'm certain that it's capable of doing far more than that.
Unfortunately,
Yeah.
you'd have to talk to the lad.
He's just sort of like, of course. He's like, perhaps we might be able to do some searching. And just kind of like says it very politely with a smile.
So an index is asking me to do my own research?
He's like, I don't have references to the information that you do for at least over a century. I'm kind of out of the loop.
All right.
All right. Don't have to get so snippy about it.
Can you tell me, though, what else is here? Do you know what's
There
over
are at least enough
there
rooms
and-
in the entire establishment of this Neverland to be able to accommodate at least up to 20 people very comfortably. There is a full larder, which has a tendency not to spoil. Quite a number of ingredients that are probably... He just kind of leans forward, like, do you have any kind of like acid rain or any kind of things like that happening? He just sort of like, I just realized that I'm talking to people, as far as I'm concerned, that are actually from the future. And I was very, very much invested into things like George Orwell. Any chance that we're seeing things like that?
I mean, more than I'd like to admit.
And he's just sort of like,
Do you know
Marvelous.
anything about Night City?
he's like, no. Like,
Are you familiar with the term megalopolis?
and he's like, oh, that's a mouthful. It's barely even English. He just like looks over and is like, I'm familiar with what it is by context, not one that I've ever actually heard it used in a sentence before.
Imagine a corporate megacity that runs the entire length of the eastern seaboard.
And he's like,
States are neighborhoods, basically.
that's impressive. Well, Either way.
That's what you missed in 100 years.
And he's like, I apparently have a lot to... He just looks, it's like, I have a marvelous idea. Maybe you can help sort of restock exactly what it is that has been missing for the past century plus years, and I can even be more helpful in its organization and utilization. Does that sound like a plan to any of you?
Like take you with us?
He's like shaking his head. No. You bring information to me, I can assimilate it as part of this library. And as such, I can help organize and cross-reference. It's what I'm good at.
USB-D? Bluetooth?
What?
Wi-Fi? How do we get stuff to you?
He's like, is he speaking English? What is he saying?
How do we convey information to you, short of me?
If the text is visible, I can assimilate it into its own concord, but the difference between these tomes and texts here is that anything that remains as acquired in that fashion would be here, in the Neverland, and not meant to return back to the other world. I can compose it into various books, tomes, or even other kinds of, well, manifestations of certain description, but again, it would remain here. If you tried to remove it, once it was done in that fashion, it would just vanish.
Wait, is this like your knowledge?
He's like, well, yes, it's been acquired over some time.
Oh.
But you have to understand that all of these books here were actually brought in as rare occurrences. Some of them purchased, some of them not, some of them stolen, in fact. They have somewhat interesting histories. Some of these books here are very boring, but their acquisition was rather exciting.
How can you interact with things?
This is a mind palace, isn't it?
It's like, of course I can interact with things. That's how I'm able to understand what's in these books.
But we can't touch you.
I know. Fantastic, isn't it? I don't have to deal with any of those germs. Tiberius has been standing in the background, just like, oh, all right, okay. This is a bit much. Wow.
Get you like a subscription to something?
And the index just looks horrifically confused at that. And Tiberius is like, he's not going to understand that. That's mostly modern stuff.
He's been around. Put on the TV?
He doesn't even know what that is. Really. Do you know what that is? He's just sort of like, TV, television? Yes, I'm aware of what that is.
Motion pictures?
He's just sort of like, don't be snide.
I mean, and what will you do for us if we upgrade your knowledge?
As I said, I can help to do exactly what I'm built to do, which is cross-reference, help you draw conclusions. I'm very capable with the vast documentation that I have at my disposal. More context and more information would just make it much more clear. I can help you clarify on your questions, specifically about Mr. Glass, if I have more references to who this man is and any encounters that seem to coincide.
What is the most effective way for you to digest information?
He's so specific.
As I said, I just need to see the text, as I said, of whatever information you wish me to possess, and then I can have it accumulated and manifested as needed. You can show me a book or a screen. If it has words on it, I can read it.
You're getting him mad, man.
And Malcolm just is kind of like leaning next to Barnaby going, you know, I could have said something like minutes ago, but this was just frankly
Barnaby is just like
my soul.
He's like he's been thumbing a cigarette. And he's just like holding it in his mouth and just kind of keeps staring at it. It's like either this kid's gonna learn, or he's gonna get hit in the head. Like that, just like
Yeah, Danny's like looking for a port or like an upload or something. He just like, I don't want to bring you books to show you.
I mean,
He's like, and then turn the page.
can
and
we
then
pay
turn
as the
page.
lotter?
That's what Danny's envisioning. Is like, I have to like bring you books and then hold them for you to read.
your mother
so that
steps in.
you-
She's
'cause you
like,
can't touch them.
no.
This stuff's
She's like,
horrible.
she's just like says like, stop. Let's just. All right, and she like looks. It's like he just looks over to her like, it's basically that expression of like, please help, like trying
Yeah.
to grasp some comprehension. She just
I like what Ken said. Poe from.
yeah.
That's the
Altered
immediate thing I
Carbon.
thought of. Like,
Absolutely, I love it.
So she brings up something. She holographically projects a, more or less a flash newsreel, and just kind of pulls it up. He's like, ah, there it is, and he's like, my God, look at all the junk. Like he's just like looking at everything else. How do you decipher the real information from anything? Well, I suppose it's not too much different. He's just like, Homer had a tendency to exaggerate. He's like, move. And he's just like, yes. And like, she just holds it up for a split second. He's like, is that it? And she's like, oh, like scrolls it up. And he's like, ah, you can go faster. I mean, she just goes like that, and he's just like, ah, got it. I detect a very
can't we just,
large
like,
amount of bias.
FTP or something. I don't want to sit here and like hold screens for you.
And he's just sort of like, that's very well and good. I suspect that you probably have breakfast waiting for you, and you can run along and take care of that. I will work with people who actually have the capacity to understand what's being done. I have no idea what FTP is.
It's a file transfer protocol.
Sounds like a mouthful.
We could just set up a feed, since you like mouthfuls so much, and then we
He's
could
sort of like-
feed you data.
So as you're talking, Hugh puts his hand on your shoulder and is like, you should go have breakfast.
Need a Snickers.
And then like Hugh stands in front of Index and like pulls out a notepad.
Yeah.
And
He's just gonna write down all the stuff he knows and then show it.
Well, he's been meticulously taking notes this whole time, especially about Mr. Glass and so on.
Here's our VODs. Learn about our adventures.
yeah.
Well, I mean, you hold it out, and he's just like, oh, even better. And, like, he just reaches his hand out. Your pad that you've been writing on just goes like that, just completely flips all on its own. Pushed by
What?
almost like
See?
air.
Whatever.
And then he's just sort of like,
He's gonna leave.
you're actually a fairly good note taker, Hugh. I actually could leave that as a journal unto itself. Although your shorthand
Ooh.
could probably use a few tweaks. He's like, you're using sort of a classical motion, but you're going to have to help me identify these, because shorthand's always unique. Like, he goes through and he kind of gives you a demonstration. You can give him the definitions, which takes a little bit, but after that, he's just sort of like, understood. And then he goes through and he's like, yes. Ah, okay. So,
There's like emojis in there.
he just kind of takes this like, I do believe that Mr. Glass would have some association with the so-called quiet calamity of the last 20 years. He had to have been present, and it was actually a crucial point, if I'm not mistaken. And he kind of pulls out certain books. You can see Nostradamus and a few other people that are like making these various predictions. He comes across, he's like, yes, for certain. There was more than one in particular that actually saw something happen. But they saw it as devastation. Whatever is going on now is clearly not what was expected. So you managed to change course somehow. In fact, he like goes back through and starts referencing like, Mr. Glass seems to be a participant in just about, well, at least 3 other occasions where things were meant to go one way and they didn't go the way expected. And that's all from your notes and everything else. Based on predictions, of course, this information has a fairly decent chance of being mostly incorrect. I've only got so much to work with when that notepad comes along, but for now, I suppose that might be some kind of lead.
So he was like, we didn't see those things. What are the 3 events that you mentioned that Mr. Glass changed the outcome of?
Well, it's before your time. Apparently, the robotic revolution was supposed to fail rather utterly. and we were supposed to move in a different direction. I think they refer to it as machines of high ability to calculate, which you are now having here. And I've seen references to computers in your notes several times. This must have been the devices that they were talking about, but that's not how it went. That was early on, late 20th century, somewhere around in the 1980s. That's at least one of them. The other ones were again before your time. They seem to have accumulated. This last one, within the 20-year period, happens to be one of the most relevant, as it affected the world as a whole. It wasn't even just something that would be a small drop in the ocean, if I'm being clear. This was something that was going to change the landscape of the ocean entirely. As a matter of fact, by now, according to various references, we should be living in some sort of vast hellscape. That's the reason why this sanctuary was partly composed, it's in some degree.
I mean, some would argue we are.
Not in the same capacity that was written about previously. Trust me. If it was that, I doubt you'd even be alive, or if you were, you'd be wishing you were very dead 100 times over.
Yeah, that probably wasn't profitable.
It had nothing to do with profit. There were certain references to a number of larger authoritarian powers, usually deterministic in their structure. Lucifer, or the Lightbringer, being one of them.
That person you idolize, the Riv you talk about sometimes, isn't she from that time period?
Yeah, her stories
25 years ago?
Her stories are fantastical and very interesting.
Ah, now we're talking. Perhaps you should bring me a reference to what this Riv person has done. She apparently writes rather meticulously or often.
Oh, I got that for you. He pulls up all of the...
Like graphic novels of Riv.
Right.
Adventures
Well,
of Riv.
sort of like... Well, I mean, you start scrolling through. It's going to take a while. Like, you spend probably about another hour in here just going through all the various points, because it's been a long time. And she's prolific. But he finally
he's
gets
gonna
done.
try and manifest some sandwich.
And he's... Some sandwich easily manifested since it's in the fridge. The best part about what happens here is that when he finally gets done consuming all of this information, he goes back to, yes, indeed. I do believe that a mass calamity actually happened to be avoided, and interesting references were made in some of her documentation. Her fictions are actually...
It's a historic text.
It's just like, it's a little juvenile, but I do have to say that the reference and the account of certain things that had happened, they carry direct linkage. And especially to a one Mr. Glass.
Aye. What does it say about Mr. Glass then?
Well, that apparently he... Well, I'm only having to accumulate this from a vague reference, mind you. Well, apparently he had capacity to understand how things were supposed to be. And I suspect that in these very small references, either from a poor memory or from whatever happened 20 years ago to make things less liable for her to be able to remember, but my assumption is that she actually knew him personally. That he was there as a figure of something to stop further calamities from occurring. Or at least change course enough so that you're not writhing around in a sulphurous pit of hellfire.
I mean, is there any other reference to that type of the type of being in history?
I don't really know. There's not a lot of references to this particular look. He seems to kind of hold on to it, doesn't he? 100 years out of date, maybe more. Probably closer to my day and age, maybe even before mine. He just kind of like leans in. If he was alive during any of these other points The problem that you are going to encounter is that apparently the connectivity, which I'm beginning to understand, is not anything like what it is today. References to him would have been significant only to certain people, and if I don't have the texts, I don't have the reference. There's no way for me to know for sure, but given the fact that everything now seems to have some sort of corollary relationship to each other and can be found in rather easy fashion, I've spent maybe an hour and a half with this gentleman here, and I found out that the amount of information that you have here makes this library look dwarfed.
I mean, it does accumulate. So, is everyone here with me now, or is it just me?
They're intermingling. I mean, like Estelle and Tiberius are listening to the conversation as best they can, but talking amongst themselves. Barnaby is just kind of keeping around Malcolm and Danny, depending on how he decides to hover or float, tinkering around with some of the books and texts and just kind of like keeping to himself. But yes, everyone's here, at least for the moment.
Danny is checked out.
Yeah, he's like, I could give a shit.
He is not paying attention.
So, Hugh's like taking in the information that Index has been kind of collating, and he makes an observation just based off his own, like, what we've been hearing.
Yeah.
You know, it seems to me that you said that according to your estimations, we should be in a hellscape, right? And we're not. And it seems to me that what you just said, Mr. Glass kind of can see how things should be, and it sounds like he's interjecting himself to change that.
He seems to be one of the great clairvoyants, just like Nostradamus, but far more intense. As a matter of fact, I suspect that's exactly the reason why he's been able to escape notice. Well, notice past a certain point, that he appears to be where he needs to be when he needs to be there.
So
with a certain understanding, of course.
So, to me, just based on the information I have at hand, he doesn't seem like a malfeasance.
I would definitely say no. He does not seem to have that sort of reputation. He seems to be present when calamities occur, but what is he preventing? That's my question, really. I have to ask.
So then he's turned into Malcolm, like, not rudely. He's just turned into Malcolm as you're talking. Is like, I wonder if Mr. Glass is a good guy. Like, do you think he's been helping us?
Doesn't matter at this point.
Well, I mean, so we do have some very, I'll say, powerful folks who've been asking for information about Mr. Glass. We were doing it under the impression that everything that Glass has been doing has been what's the word I'm looking for?
Malfeasant?
No, I wasn't going to use that word again. Has been like just trying to harm us. But now, based on this information, it seems like
nothing has been trying to harm us. It's been sunshine and butterflies.
I'm not saying it was a bad assumption. I'm saying that now, with this new information, the search for information for Mr. Glass is not for an adversary to dispatch, so to speak, but maybe someone who can help us understand what we should be doing to prevent another calamity. If he's interacting with us and trying to guide us, that means we must be part of some vision that he has, right?
What if this is him helping?
Everybody make a awareness check real quick.
Like, what if all the horrible we've been going through is with him holding off worse stuff?
All right. Awareness coming in.
Coming in! Roll that beautiful bean footage.
17.
That's like the only thing I've got. 17, I see it.
I'm going to use my my kicker on this one.
Yeah.
Cool.
I got an 8. I rolled a 2.
But still, you're like over the hump of like better than average.
Kicker.
Danny's just like paranoid a little bit that he has some heightened awareness.
I'm going
nice.
to use my luck
Well, you don't need to if
re-roll
you don't have to worry about it being a botch because with the kicker it nullifies botches. Just so you
I know,
know.
but I want to have it. I want to have it better.
Okay, go ahead.
I want to be aware.
Because technically speaking, that's a 4 on the roll. That's how that works. Can't
Oh,
Your
botch.
third eye.
Let's see. Roll D10.
Are you exploding or are you re-rolling or what?
Yeah, he's
That's
exploding
reroll.
it. And he got a 10 on top of it, so it explodes again.
Yeah.
Dang.
See, there's a reason I did this.
Hugh sees all.
And
He just had to take his monocle and like clean the lens and then.
yeah, I think that's a little bit better. So instead of 15, it was
28.
28. That'll do.
Yeah, that'll
a little
do.
bit better.
Everybody hears the doorbell ring.
Oh, God damn it!
And then here's Hugh.
Got it.
Hi, I'm Hugh Man. How you doing?
You know what? That actually works for his character. He'd be the first to the door to answer it. So
Yes,
he's
that's
very aware.
literally what's going to have to happen.
Wait, the doorbell in the house? Like
Yes.
back out of the.
Yep.
So just from your aware, like Danny, you might recognize that this is odd. Like it's in the house, in the sanctuary, or in the house itself that we heard it.
You heard it in the sanctuary from the house because you guys can hear it because the door's still open.
Okay, I thought you meant there's like a door in the house or in the sanctuary that
No.
just rang.
That's why we're
Okay.
rolling awareness because you might not have heard it because it was
Okay.
coming
I
from
like that
inside the house.
Sanctuary allows sound to come through from outside.
It's inside the house.
Right.
All right. Well, yeah, he will
God
obviously
damn it!
just
I keep
walk
getting
right out of
liquid
the
in my beard.
sanctuary.
Damn it!
He was
And,
like,
uh,
"Open the door!"
Yeah, I got it. Like,
My
he's out
kids,
there before
every
anyone
time
can
the
see it.
door rings, they're like, "Ah, get the door!" I'm like, "Don't."
Yeah. Well, I mean, you go rushing up towards the door. You pop that sucker open, and who should be there other than the exact query that you've been asking about? When he removes the top hat off the top, he just nods his head, and he's like, "Greetings," and everybody else files out behind. And of course, you know, Estelle is just kind of like steps back for a minute whenever she comes around the corner, and Tiberius is like, "Really?" Like just, and Barnaby's got his hand on his weapon. He's like, "Nuh-uh." I was like, "This is a closed
And
gate
so,
community."
of course, he was like, Hugh Man, at your service. You must be Mr. Glass?
Yeah, he just like shakes your hand. He's just like, "Yes, I've actually been looking forward to this. About time."
That's a good stopping point. That's like a
Yep.
cut to black.
It's Mr. Douglas.
Yeah, not Mr. Douglas. He's very dead under a house.
Oh, it's his twin brother. If it makes you guys feel comfortable, you can call me Mr. Douglas too.
Yeah. God damn. Well, again, another very roleplay heavy session, but I think that went well.
Mhm.
Yeah. I was
Yeah,
like,
it goes-
plot twist. That's not really a plot twist. Plot enhancement.
Danny goes
Well,
down
I
to-
mean, he's gonna show up once you guys get to the point where you realize what he's about, to where he's not going to be attacked. Of course, he'll show up, especially with his ability. But
Yeah,
it'll be a
that's-
very
that's fair.
interesting conversation from this point forward.
You know, I'm glad that the character who is a romanticist or a hopeless romantic is the one who sees the good in everybody. Like this guy who seems like a evil, overlord. Like he's like, no, maybe not.
And he was right there at the door. Right
Yep.
there at the fucking door.
The
Yes.
Once we're off stream, I want to show you something funny.
Okay, sounds good to me. Other than that, I think that'll actually be good for now. So far, 0 dropped frames, not a 1.
And I noticed that earlier on, the chat disappeared, right? And it came back right when Monkey was talking about his dick. It was so funny. Like it was
Yeah.
just like, and
It
like
injected life back into the.
Well, you know what this proves? Given the fact that I've even switched out network equipment and so on, is that all of my stuff's fine, that my original ISP was indeed the problem.
Yep.
For sure. they were screwing me over somehow. So I'll
Now
have
you got a
to.
better deal.
Yeah, I did. I got a way better deal all the way around. So I'm happy with that. I love being able to stream anyway. So being able to do it without having to be like complete hot garbage is pretty nice. All right then. We'll call it quits right here. We'll have the next one next week, and I should have the prequel up to this one episode to kind of complete things through up soon. I'm hoping that by the weekend it will be all through. But yeah, we'll push it through. But until then, everybody have a wonderful night. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.